What's up, everybody? Welcome to Not Your Grandfather's Vlog. This is a vlog I do on my channel that's more unscripted and laid back. So if you're here for some other kind of content, check out my other videos. But if you want to hear me talk about the rock band Rush, you're in the right spot. An article was released January 19th where guitar player Lifeson basically said, we're done as a band. We're done. We're no longer touring. We're no longer making any albums. It's finally kaput. After 41 years of music, they finally decided to call it quits. Now, Rush is easily one of my favorite bands of all time. I'm sure in the Canadian food video, if you watch that, where I taste tested Canadian food, that I made that pretty abundantly clear.
Rush! I own like everything they've ever put out, as you can see. And for that, Canada, you are forever redeemable.
I own every single one of their CDs. I own most of their DVDs, some of their VHS tapes before the DVDs were made available of their live performances. I've only seen them twice, unfortunately, and it was in 2007 on the Snakes and Arrows tour, twice that year, I want to say. I bought the Rickenbacker 4003 bass when I was in high school because Geddy Lee played it. They really inspired me a lot musically. I was obsessed with Alex Lifeson's guitar tone growing up and his guitar pedals that he used. They even got me into vintage synthesizers with all the synthesizers that Geddy Lee used to play, like his Oberheim XA for the song Subdivisions. Signals, of course, being my favorite album that they've done of all time. This article came as a surprise to me. Now, I had heard rumblings of Neil Peart, their drummer, not being able... Oh, let me just stop, by the way. It's Peart. It's not Peart, okay? Most of you Americans mispronounce that. I myself am American, but I'm speaking condescendingly to my own people. Most people want to say, Neil Peart. It's Peart. I know it's more Frenchy sounding, but that's how you say the man's last name. So get it right, damn it. I had heard rumblings that he was having some kind of tendonitis, something going wrong with his body to where he wasn't really able to play drums or tour on the level that he was touring. But I just kind of put it out of my mind, you know, because I'm busy these days. I'm an adult now. Life goes on. You can't obsess over your favorite bands like you have time to when you're a kid. So I just kind of thought about, like I did a distant family member that I never really visit. It's like, oh yeah, but they're always going to be around, you know, because they're Rush, and you know that's what they do. So this article kind of like blindsided me like a ton of bricks when I finally read it. And Alex Lifeson basically goes on to say, it's been a little over 2 years since Rush has last toured. We have no plans to tour or record anymore. We're basically done. After 41 years, we felt it was enough. The we part of the we felt it was enough, I gotta call Alex out on that one. We, as in Neil, Geddy, and Alex, didn't think it was enough. Neil felt like it was enough. So in 2016, this documentary, Time Stands Still, comes out, which just totally flew under the radar in my world. I mean, I had never even heard of this documentary. The last documentary I had seen by them was Beyond the Lighted Stage, which came out all the way back in 2010. I can't believe that. I feel like I just watched that yesterday. So there was this whole Rush fanfare thing going on for a while where they were kind of, you know, being built up as these legends that they are and that they deserve to be. So I was just thinking, okay, they're just chilling. You know, another album will come out. Another thing will happen by them. And then this documentary, Time Stands Still, comes out, which basically elaborates on those rumblings that I had heard of Neil and his problems. This documentary basically goes on to say that Neil had developed some kind of a foot fungus from riding his motorcycles from city to city on the tour dates, because he wouldn't like ride in a plane with the rest of the band or on a tour bus. He'd ride his motorcycle. It was what kept him sane. So he starts getting these foot problems, and you know, nobody lives forever. People's bodies break down. Drummers' bodies don't fare good at all compared to guitarists and bass players in bands, because it's a very physical job, especially if you've ever heard a Rush song in your entire life. You can only imagine how hard it is being Neil Peart every night on a 100 or 200 show tour. So all good things must come to an end, right? Well, I was starting to have issues with Rush in the last 10 or so years that they've been around. I didn't like how the whole Rush machine was kind of pumping out so much content to their fans, and a lot of it was not quality. A lot of it was just regurgitating their greatest hits packages, and then you got, you know, Vapor Trails remastered, and you got, you know, the special editions of, whoa, we're re-releasing Farewell to Kings on vinyl in this special super package for $150. I mean, if you go on their website, Rush.com, and you check out the items they have for sale, I mean, you gotta be kind of a rich guy to be able to afford a lot of this stuff. All these special packages and repackaging of stuff. And it was starting to feel kind of gross. Like, why are they doing this? I mean, I guess you could look at Rush as like this big institution at this point, and they have throngs of fans that are silly enough to just buy up anything they put out. I hate that about fandom. Anytime you become a huge fan of anything, it's almost like the people who you're a fan of, they realize that fandom and they want to exploit it and capitalize on it. And I just didn't think Rush was going to be a band to do that. I mean, it's one thing if Elton John puts out a greatest hits CD every year. He's this pop megastar. Rush was always supposed to be the anti that. But then they released Clockwork Angels, their last studio album, and that's really when I was like, okay, maybe Rush needs to call it a day. It seems like after Beyond the Lighted Stage came out, this hype had built up around Rush as this legendary band, and I feel like the band themselves started buying their own hype, and so they come out with this album, and Geddy's trying to sing high, you know, because he's known as being this high singer, you know, as far as everyone else is concerned. So he's trying to sing high. He can't hit the high notes anymore. His voice is just degrading to the point of almost unlistenability, as far as I'm concerned. He's having to do this weird, it almost sounds like inward singing when he plays live. I don't know, man. I don't know what happened to his voice. The sad thing is like, okay, he lost his top registers. What I would have liked to have seen was for him to go back to like the mid-'80s time where he was singing songs in a lower register. He could still nail those songs live. Like anytime on these live DVDs, if you go back and you watch them perform songs like Presto and Subdivisions, any of that low stuff, he sounds just as good as he did in the 80s. But anytime they play any of their classics, like he's trying to sing Spirit of Radio or Free Will or especially 2112, it sounds like ass. Someone's got to say it. It sounds like ass. Geddy's voice stopped sounding good for those songs in like the late 90s. Like he lost those notes, but especially in the last 5 years. So Clockwork Angels came out and I listened to that album and it just sounded like a big, for all intents and purposes, like a big kind of sea of misguided noise. Like, nothing from that album sticks out to me. And I understand with Rush's albums, you really have to sit on them for a while, and you have to let them cook and, you know, grow on you. And the more you listen to it, the more you find that you like in the album. But I've tried listening to this album over and over, and I just can't get into it. I think the two singles, if you want to call them that, Brought Up to Believe, and the other one I think is called Carnival or something. Those were okay, but again, there was just no Rushness in there. I don't know, it was like, let's try to live up to what all these new, you know, fans with, because, you know, they were in that movie I Love You Man, and Rush started to become more culturally and pop culturally relevant, and they started appearing more. So I kind of feel like with their last album, they felt pressured to make like a classic Rush album, and it just didn't end up sounding good to me. It didn't have a lot of just distinctive elements in the music that really made me like their earlier stuff a lot. A lot of that weirdness was gone. It was just this very meandering prog kind of album that didn't really feel like it had much of a point, which is crazy because in the documentary Time Stands Still, Neil's like, you know, I was more happy with this record than I was of any other record. And I'm like thinking like, really, dude? Because I feel like this is like the weakest album y'all have done since like maybe Test for Echo. And I would take Test for Echo any day of the week over their last album. So my long-winded point that I'm trying to make is, I think it's a good thing that Rush is retiring. I think it's good that they're not going to be putting out music anymore. You know, I mean, as much as it hurts us and as much as it sucks in a sense that your friend that you relied on for all these years isn't really going to be around anymore, it's like, as a consumer, as somebody who prides themselves in liking good music and having good taste, you have to be objective about music. You have to be objective about art. Do that favor for yourself and be objective. Another thing I hate about fandom and extreme fanboyism is just liking everything that somebody or something puts out regardless of the quality. You have to hold these people up to some standards, you know? They can't just put out anything and you automatically say you love it. I'm very critical of Rush's later albums. I'm very critical of their early albums. I'm not a huge fan of 2112. I can't even listen to their first 3 albums, aside from a few select songs. They got to this middle period of peak creativity and peak experimentation, and that was the time that I thought they were great. And then I felt like it started to wane, and a lot of bands will just beat a dead horse. I feel like their last great album was 1993's Counterparts, which is a great album. I mean, and if this is offending any hardcore Rush fans, there are some Rush fans out there that think Grace Under Pressure it was the last essential Rush album, so I don't want to hear it from you. There's so many bands that should have hung it up a long time ago, quit while they're ahead, but they just keep going and keep churning out songs. You know, it's good to quit well on top. There's a lot to be said for that, and I feel like Rush kind of did that. Although, with their fan base, anytime they quit, they would have quit on top, because their fan base is just going to follow them and listen to them and buy whatever they put out for as long as the band puts out stuff. So I guess really they could have quit at any time. I never got obsessed with Rush as like the 3 guys. Like, I would have loved to have met Alex and Geddy and Neil when I was like a teenager, but like now I just like listen to their music because I really enjoy their music. So the fact that they're not going to be around anymore, it's like, yeah, you know, they're not going to be around, but we still have like over, you know, what, 13 albums is at this point of music, and all the live albums and live DVDs, all their they were very forward thinking in the sense that they put out and recorded a lot of their live stuff. They made a lot of studio albums. They did a lot. They have a huge body of work that you can continue to enjoy for a really long time. They're not like a band like Nirvana where they have like 3 albums and that's it, you know. I mean, they're a legendary band with a lot of material to work with. So the music's still going to be around. They left a huge legacy behind. And, you know, the thing about Neil, it's like, if you watch Time Stands Still, he kind of comes off as a dick, you know. He kind of, to me, he came off as, it's like, man, he's so excited to leave. He's so excited and so willing to, like, to get out of this band. Because, like, he was dreading that tour. He didn't want to do it. And he's just, in the documentary, he's like, you know, got to get through a few more shows and then I'm free. You know, that's how it felt like. But it's kind of like with Neil Peart, you can't really spite the guy for anything. Because in 1998 or 99, he kind of lost his daughter in a car accident. And then his wife died of cancer a few months later. So the fact that we got another good 15 years out of him after that, we should be grateful for, honestly. Because for all intents and purposes, that man should have went insane after such a huge loss like that. So you can't really be mad at Neil for anything he wants to do. You know, I mean, if he had wanted to call the band quits in 99, I think everyone would have been like, hey, fair enough, you know, nobody's going to spite you for that. But the fact that we got another few albums and tours and all that out of him, I think that's, you know, it's saying a lot. And it's not even like he's retiring because he didn't like the band or anything like that, even though that's kind of how it came off on the DVD, or the documentary rather. He's retiring because physically he's not able to keep up the standard, the Neil Peart standard that everyone's so used to. So, yeah, it's going to bum me out that there's not going to be that one last album where maybe they went back to some of the Rush that I like, some of that 80s kind of, you know, synthy kind of. It kind of makes me sad that that's not going to happen. It sucks that I won't ever see them again live. Anyway, this is a long-winded video. I think I've hit all the points I wanted to talk about. So yeah, we always have their music, and you know, I hope that you watched this video and didn't get your feelings hurt too bad if you're a diehard Rush fan. Have a good rest of your night.